What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Progress Always, where we're here to build the fittest leaders through integrity, courage, and ownership. And I've got the pleasure of sitting down with my homegirl, and I just discovered fellow Thunderbird, Tirza Jova, founder of Milk by Mom, bringing mamas and caregivers the freedom and flexibility of formula with the benefits of breast milk. Where were you when we were having babies? Holy shit. Before I get, I'm so on board with your mission. My mom had 4 boys who grew up to be 6 foot, 200 pounds, and we're all formula babies. And when we started having kids, Nicole and I, when she had the babies, breastfeeding was not easy. It was a real challenge for her. And I remember she comes from a family where all the moms breastfeed and breastfed forever for a long time, whatever that means in mom land. And I'm totally mansplaining right now. And I love my mom to death, and she's like never up in my business. You know, she's like, she respects that boundary. And it's like, Mom, I need you to get on the horn with my wife and tell her about your story so that this makes more sense and is an easier decision for her to make as a mom. That this decision to not, to make the shift to the bottle earlier than the field would say is appropriate, that it's okay. So yes, thank you so much for your mission, because I know we're not the only ones who have moved through that. And how did you become Milk by Mom?
Well, first off, thanks for having me here. I love it. I had not even heard T-Bird. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to connect about this offline.
I saw that Denny Leclerc is a fellow connection. He was not only my favorite professor, but he's also a client of ours. And yes, all of that for sure.
I don't want to derail the podcast. we got a lot to catch up on offline.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. Your question, right? And I feel like, God, if I had $1 for every time somebody says, where were you, or if only, I mean, my financial situation would be so different, right? Not that we're bad, but the truth is that we are right now on a mission to modernize breast milk, right? And we do that through freeze drying, empowering moms while ensuring that their babies can get the best start in life, right? Mm-hmm. And that being said, there's a lot of families like your family who experience that situation. I think it's so important. You alluded to how hard breastfeeding is, like the amount of sacrifice that goes into it. And really, it's like no one size fits all, right? And I think that the most important thing is that there's no shame, and that everybody needs to do what fits their family, right? Yep. And so I'll just leave that there. I hope that your wife was able to talk to your mom and kind of find.
Oh no, it ended beautifully, and
I love that.
We're everybody's great, and it's awesome. And
you have beautiful kids, right? And
they're healthy. You. Yeah, so and now she's the one giving that same kind of guidance on either which way. Just like you said, sure. There is no one size fits all. You got to do what's right for you. Now she's the one in that giving that guidance. It's awesome.
I do feel like, mental health and family overall well-being is the number one thing. And so I guess I'll start with my story, but it really comes down to, while you're breastfeeding, like as a parent, as a mom, as much as you can have the most amazing partner, so much lies solely on the mom. And so right now it's about, how do we empower those moms, take something off their plate, allow for their tribe, if they're lucky enough to have a tribe, to step in to help without them always being the source, right? Or having to be present. So my story, I think, as any woman entrepreneur, or many of us women entrepreneur, was born out of a need, right? Like I saw a need as a mom and discovered this service after I was on a crazy wait list. I was traveling cross country with a ton of breast milk. How do I do it? I discovered this, and it was like hands down a game changer for me. It was the ultimate mom hack, but I couldn't stop talking about it. And nobody knew. Nobody knew, right? And so, and mind you, I was fortunate enough to have, a pelvic floor PT, a doula, a postpartum doula, my OB, like a lactation consultant. I was very fortunate to have a support system in place. And yet I didn't know. Nobody knew, right? And so, well, fast forward, here I am, because the science is there. It's been there since the 50s. Milk banks around the world are using freeze drying. So it's been something that B2B has been around for a long time. It is just now available B2C to consumers, right? So
milk banks have been a thing for over 50 years.
Milk banks have been using freeze drying as a source of preserving the breast milk they receive from different donors. There's milk banks in Germany and Brazil that use freeze drying as how they preserve their breast milk. So
I am so ignorant of your world, and all I can think right now when I hear milk bank and for how long it's been around, and I'm just now via Tirza getting wind of all of this. I think, and you say donors, I'm like, is this like a locks of love type scenario? Is that an oversimplification of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, but similar, right?
Okay.
I think there's a I thought you were going to go a different route, given that and you're like bodybuilders, because there is an absolute black market for
sure,
and breast milk, because
colostrum's a thing. Oh yeah,
and the HGH is absolutely not. Synthetic MGH doesn't even compare, right? So,
I've got a story about one of our first trips to the pediatrician when you get done, but go ahead.
Okay. I can't wait to hear. But yeah, I mean, in a very oversimplification, there's a lot of babies that go into NICU. There is like a shortage of breast milk, and NICU babies are often given formula, but if they could be given breast milk, it would be better. There's something called NEC, which is this necrolytis that happens to small babies who sometimes have too much formula in their intestine. And so it doesn't happen with breast milk. And so here it is, right? And so breast milk is the ultimate best food for babies. And there is a shortage. So there's milk banks around the world and all over the place here where women who have an oversupply donate it. And ideally it's going to infants whose parents cannot produce enough or do not have enough breast milk to be able to provide it to the child.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. No, you brought up the bodybuilding and the HGH thing. I remember so you haven't met Nicole, but she's 5'9". She played D1 hoops. I'm 6 foot, 230. And our kids are not going to be small. Like we rigged the genetic lottery in that regard. And we're at the pediatrician. They're scoring off the charts and growth and all that kind of good stuff. And as we're sitting there, I look to my left and there's a bottle of formula with creatine. Right. And I looked at not knowing that that's like for preemies, you know what I mean? And I look at the pediatrician and I'm like, what do I got to do to walk out of here with that? And he was like, your children will never, ever, ever need that. You can just go ahead and leave that alone. And I just started laughing. That's such the bro in me was like, oh, we can get them started now? Like,
yeah, let's go. I mean, come on.
So tell me about the leap to entrepreneurship. You were telling me before we got on the mic that you had like a cush corporate gig and all that, and now you're out here making it happen, hooking and jabbing with the rest of us in entrepreneur land. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about it in that, I never thought I would be the entrepreneur. Right. I knew I was good at what I knew how to do and I could operationalize anything.
Yep.
But my husband, Craig, who is like, he's always like, what's the next thing? Like,
quick backstory. Tirza and I met at a networking event not too long ago. And I come to find out that her husband was one of our clients way back when. And so not only do we have that connection, now we have the Thunderbird connection.
I love it.
It is.
It's like alignment.
Yeah, this is 100%. That's my buzzword, by the way. Like, you can never overuse it. Alignment is what we do. So yeah, this is it.
Yeah, everything has to be in alignment. And I really, really do believe that. And I think when you first start entrepreneurship, you don't fully understand or appreciate the full sense of it. But yeah, I had this huge identity shift, right? Like it was, here was cush job, cush, like, and to doing something that I was incredibly passionate about. Mind you, I also started doing this 2 months postpartum with my second. So it was like I had to use my maternity leave to figure out if this had legs, right? Because I knew, if I could possibly get more fulfillment out of doing this, but I needed to make sure this had legs, right?
Yeah.
So I did that. I juggled both things for about 6 to 7 months. And then I ended up leaving my corporate job and then diving straight into this. And of course, as any entrepreneur at the beginning, you make no money, right? But you are working harder than you've ever freaking grinded in your life. Right? Everybody's like, oh, how cool. And you're like, yeah, it sounds real sexy, but it is hard. And it's not for the faint of heart. And, people say that all the time. And you hear it and you're like, yeah. And you can say it, but having lived it, you truly understand, right? How that brain never shuts down. Like you're going to bed and you're like, ooh, thinking this, you're reading your kid a bedtime story and you're like trying to be fully present, but things are always happening. So, it still is. I feel like at this point I've been in it for a couple of years and I've really embraced it. And, the business is growing. We have a lot of momentum. So it's really exciting. But there is all those shifts, right? In terms of, now it's like, is my identity tied to this? And then you're like, and if this doesn't work, then what?
Right.
And so then what? And so it's this constant evolution of figuring out who you truly are, regardless of what you are necessarily doing in your job, right? For what's bringing in income.
How did you figure out that this was a business opportunity for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I followed my mom's sense intuition, right? Where I knew how big of an impact this can and does have on families.
Yeah.
And really in general, in terms of what we're talking about, like modernizing breast milk, like overall from a big macro perspective. And I just felt so passionate about making sure that more people knew, right? And so it was when I felt the passion, the desire to educate, oh my gosh, there's this. And it just kind of came to me, you know what, I'm going to start a company. Yeah. And I remember just like dropping it, like, there wasn't hesitation in terms of that. So I think that's when you talk about things being in alignment or like the universe sending those signs, like so often you're doing these really big life decisions. And of course, I'm not going to underplay that. Yeah. But there was certainly this clearness of mind and heart that were aligned and felt right for me.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here on this whole becoming a parent thing. Because, the tribe and the resources that you had, that you were aware of taking advantage of, is probably the best way to put it. I had no idea a lot of those job descriptions that you just spelled out even existed. And then I remember we were getting ready to have Tristan, our son, and I called my big brother, who's ahead of us in the parenting game. And I was like, all right, dude, lay it out for me. His son is 13. Ours is 9. I was like, you're 4 years ahead, dude. What's the secret? And this is the kind of family I come from. He's also a Marine. He says, Michael, please tell me you're not buying all those books and shit on how to be a great dad. I was like, no, but I'd be lying if I said the thought hadn't crossed my mind. And he's like, dude, we've been doing this thing for hundreds of thousands of years. I have all the confidence in the world that you'll be able to figure this shit out. And that's the guidance I took into fatherhood. Like,
I'm with your brother. And so I didn't buy any of those books. And I felt the pressure. Like people were like, oh, have you read this and that? No, like it just, life, that didn't happen, you know, and for, I'll tell you why. And the reason why I had some of these were, one, out of need. Like I had issues with my daughter being tongue tied, and so breastfeeding and stuff. So I immediately had to go see somebody, right? Like it wasn't like I had this like clinician lined up because I knew. Now I would have one lined up regardless, right? Because I know that's going to be so much more supportive and also ensure that it overall has a better outcome. You know, my daughter was born in the midst of COVID. And so my mom didn't meet. I mean, my trip was so that they could meet my kid, like at 8 months or 9 months. She was like, you know what I mean? So I didn't have, it was in a moment where there was like zero support. And so it was like, who's going to come in and support me? And so that's why I remember scrambling. It was like last, you know, you were just like figuring it out, you know? So I will just say that in full defense of yourself. And I think that you learn with so much with baby number one, and then that baby, like you're like, oh, I went to go see this person or that person. And you just kind of line that up for baby number two, because you start to know better. And now being part of this birth world, and I think there's so much more education and such a better support system during a critical time that so often has been forgotten. You know, in our society, in terms of all the additional support that needs to come in. It's starting to be better. It's still a long way to go, but obviously now I'm so in tune with it that like if I had a third baby, it'd be so even more. It's like everything's lined up. You know.
So you know, I know what Craig has going on, and he definitely has that entrepreneurial thread. How are you guys? How do you manage your relationship with each other as parents and in building your respective empires? How do you manage that?
We're still figuring it out. You know, I think that very early on and here's the question, with ourselves, it's been a process, right? And I think right now we're coming out into like a better season. I think we had those initial baby rearing ages, and then you add a second kid to that, like forget now having like 2-on-1 or 1-on-1. Like now it's like that goes out the window as soon as you have a second one. You know, I think we've always been incredibly aware of the fact that we're, one, very committed to one another, and even though things might be tough or harder, feel harder in that moment, like there's a desire to be better, right? Not necessarily that we know how to do it, but there is that desire and that willingness, and that's just kind of has always been a fuel behind us. You know, of course, we've tried it all, and sometimes it's great. Make sure you have a date night. Make sure you do, you know, like Sunday check-ins. Make sure, you know, you're finding time for you to tap out and that other person to tap out. And so, of course, we've tried all these different things, but I think at the end of the day, it comes down to knowing that you're with someone who's very committed, and knowing that at the end of the day, they have your best interest at heart. And then for us, that's shown up in so many different ways. I mean, Craig, for me, has been my number one supporter for everything Milk by Mom related. But even so, his commitment to his self journey and improvement has been notable and has been so amazing to see and inspiring, right? So now I'm like, I've got to do this for myself. And so we're both right now very much have been working on one another or ourselves to be a better version for ourselves and ultimately our kids, right? But at the end of the day, we're very acutely aware of the fact that our kids are here and they're wonderful and they were here forever. But, you know, at 18, they're out of the house.
Right.
And like after that, it's me and him. So we are and need to be a priority. Right?
Yeah. I love the word that jumps out at me in what you just said was willingness. Because, well, let me back up. In your corporate life, how long you guys been together?
7 years. Our anniversary was the 1st. So
married 7 years, but together how long?
Together like 8.5.
Right on.
Quick.
Okay. So you were in your corporate life, and he was launching a lot of the things that he's now since built, right? And in on the entrepreneur side of the fence, like that personal growth and development thing is like, if you have nothing else to hang on to, there's that. Right. So are you observing that in him while you're in that corporate world, or were you also in active, conscious pursuit of your own personal growth at that point too?
Yeah, no, I would say Craig started first and then I followed.
Okay.
And I think at least for me, and I know that a lot of times you'll hear this as a woman and as a mother, like we usually will put ourselves at the bottom of the totem pole, and there were some, rock bottom thing, there are rude awakenings of like, okay, I need to also prioritize my well-being, my health. Like it's, you're constantly serving. So
we coach people out of that shit real quick.
Yeah, it is a gender. I'm sure it happens on both sides of the spectrum. Totally. But women tend to just
feel it hard.
Our well-being is at the bottom of the totem pole. So he started before I did, and he's always advocated for me, and I just never prioritized it or felt like it was important enough, or now hearing myself say that, that's like, oh, no, that's infuriating.
Oh yeah. Well, the reason I asked about the timeline is to make this point. It has so much less to do with growing together, so to speak, like at the same rate, and more so the willingness to grow at all. Because there's going to be periods, depending on where you're starting from, where you're at, where you're trying to get to, what's next, where you're going to go like this and they're going to be doing this, right? And then at some point that shit's going to flip. You're going to slow to a crawl and they're going to make a quantum leap, right? And rarely, and I've been doing this a long time, it is rare that I see people on the best you can hope for is to be on the same trajectory, but you're not going to be moving at the same speed. Nicole is growing in the areas that she needs to grow so that she can be the best mom possible. She tells me about this shit all the time. Michael, I need to do XYZ for me so that I can show up for them. I can be there for you, and I'm no saint. I am no fucking picnic. You know what I mean? Like, I admit that, and I know that, and I love my wife dearly for sticking through thick and thin with me. But like we've made these agreements with each other so that we know that we're playing the same game.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you and Craig have that too.
Yeah. He's in my corner. I think that's the most important part, right? As much as like there's been bumpy rocks or anything, like I know he's in my corner and he's got my back. And so I think that always just is like the underlying comfort that can come with the growth. Right. But you're right. I mean, it's never, oh God, it would be amazing to grow in parallel, but it doesn't always happen like that. And it's so exciting when one exceeds the other or vice versa, because that allows the other one to maybe slow down, right? And do some of that. So I think it's interesting to have seen how it's happened and played out for us.
Yeah, one of the, Nicole was, had a 6-figure corporate gig, and, we started having kids, and she left that because it was really conflicting with her mom life, not from the standpoint of like too much work, but just like no boundaries. She's getting phone calls like while we're sitting down to have dinner, and, she wants to, do the mom thing. And she leaves corporate, launches her event coordination business, and that shit took off. And then 6 months later, the fucking pandemic hit. And so she comes into business with me in Next Level, and we crushed. But like, talking about updating and upgrading the agreements that you have with each other, we came into our relationship, both of us working. right? And it wasn't really an explicit discussion that we ever had. It just became part of our relationship dynamic that we'd both be earners.
Yeah.
Right. And coming into this season of our lives, where, you know, her number one priority, come hell or high water, whether, you know, we have a house in the hills or we're in a cardboard box, she wants to be the best mom possible,
I love
you
that.
know. And we had a conversation. It's like, look, you know, what if you were just mom, and not just mom? Like, I think that's the most important gig on the planet. But like, what if you only did that for as long as as long as you want to be that, right? And like, the tears that came as a result of that conversation was like, I didn't know that that's a move that we could make, you know, because
Beautiful.
because we'd never talked about it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like a permission thing. It was just like, I thought the expectation was that we'd always both work. You know what I mean? And yeah, I am on the grind right now. We were just talking about that. But I come home and I see her with them two, and I'm just like, I have nothing to bitch about.
Yeah. I'm so happy for her. Honestly, that's amazing. Yes, it's amazing. It's an amazing gift, and it's a hard work, right? Being a mom is incredibly hard, period. I mean, sometimes you're like, ugh, like being away from your kids is a nice break, you know? So not having that's also taxing, but it's an amazing gift. I'm so glad that she's being able to do that.
Yeah, no, it's super cool, you know. And then knowing the people like you are out there that get it, like, oh, this is something that will really help, you know, like this is a need that isn't being met. And I'm putting my Thunderbird hat on now that I know we speak that language. I'm like, oh, so how much of Thunderbird is woven into this thing?
Well, I mean, everything and nothing, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
Of course, like Thunderbird was hugely formative. You know, it was something I've been meaning to do, is go tap into the Thunderbird network, which I have not yet for my business. You know, I'm like in a huge scale mode, so let's connect offline on that. But
yeah,
it's been something that I've been meaning to do, and of course, at the same time, everything, right?
I mean, do you pull on that experience as you're building your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that experience was highly formative, right? When I'm thinking about, you know, even just like thinking how strategically you want to map something out, or how I want to expand this, or where I want to go. Of course, I want to go into international markets. That's really like a dream. I'm not a dream. We're going to do this. We're already very close to getting there. But of course, as a T-bird, I'm like, the desire to be bigger than just US is very much there. And I don't get me wrong. I mean, I still have friends from my T-bird days who are, you know, hey, I need a piece of advice. Let me pick your brain on this. Let me do that. So it's been a huge part of my life. And I mean, I would say so much more than I probably have sat down to think about and give credit to.
Totally.
You know?
Well, I remember when, you know, the gym was shut down by the powers that be, and I didn't know if we were going to have that to come back to. And that's how I got to Thunderbird. One of my mentors, who was also a client, was like, I did what most people do in times of crisis. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just go back to school. You know what I mean? And he was like, the only place for you in watching you build what you've built at Next Level is Thunderbird. That's the only place that you, like, they will understand what you're doing, you know? And what I loved about that experience was the fact that they weren't just professors who lived in think tanks. You know, they were actually like Denny had built 2 companies, you know, and
they actually get like powerhouse, very successful individuals who aren't just teaching theory, but are living from teaching from self experiences in the real world. So
I remember I can't remember whose class it was, but we reviewed a case study, And
Moffitt? Did you have Moffitt?
I didn't take Moffitt stuff. We're reviewing this case study, and I mean, like, ripping it apart. Like, oh yeah, they could have made this. Why didn't they analyze that? Whatever. This was a failure of leadership. And then when all the dust settles and everybody submitted their stuff, he was like, "That was my company." We're just like, "Oh shit! Wow!" You know what I mean? So you're getting that fire hose of information from people that are also playing the game. And I thought that was so unique to the experience compared to what I had heard about other, comparable MBA programs and stuff like that, where, like you were saying, they were just coaching from theory. And I really appreciated that about the Thunderbird experience. So like for me, I now get to take what we've built at Next Level, and I get to teach and speak at Thunderbird about that journey. It's so cool how tapped into their alumni they are. It is for sure. I know we're going to talk about this offline, but it's definitely worth the conversation to get down there and tap back in for sure. Yeah. So where, you're talking, are you operating in all 50 states right now?
Yeah. So we're available nationwide, including Hawaii and Puerto Rico. Okay. About 75% of our business is nationwide, so it's shipped in. We just did our first order to Europe, so hopefully Europe is coming, EU is coming soon. We've got Canada that we're trialing later this month.
Okay.
So we're working really close on. We work with UPS Healthcare, which is a division, and this is like, T-Bird, everything, UPS Healthcare. Yeah. It's a small division within them, but it's an amazing division that gives you added protection through RFID tracking. Yeah. And a process, and everything gets redistributed through cold chain facilities in case anything happens. And so we're working very closely with them, and they're very, I would say, very committed to us and really excited because they're seeing, oh, this is so great, and they're seeing how much we've grown with them and what we're trying to do. So it's great. There's like teams on deck trying to help us get international.
Are you first to market in this regard?
No, there's 4 of us in the country. One established 2019, and then the other 3 came to life right around 2022 when I did. So the other 3 were
okay. There. So why is this such a recent market evolution? I'm so curious. If let me back up. Where does one go to donate breast milk?
There's a lot of different nonprofits across. I mean, you start with like your clinician, but there's milk banks all over all states, right? So you can donate breast milk. There's all sorts of different nonprofits in place, and so it's much easier than you think.
Okay, got it. Yeah. And then, so is this one of those things that like women would know anyway?
I think most women would know that there's milk banks. I would say how much we know. I mean, even to the extent, like, I'm not an expert in milk banks, right? Like my industry is runs in parallel, but is different, right? I'm not. I'm supporting families who have their own supply or who are sourcing their own supply from the donor at that point, and then helping freeze dry it and preserve their milk. So I'm not necessarily running intersection with them at this point. I will say, what our roadmap is and where we're looking to go and or where our eye is set on the future, that might come into play for sure. But right now it doesn't.
Okay. So the history there, why is what you do such a recent revelation?
Yeah, great question. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's kind of surprising, to be honest.
Right.
It's like, here we go back to MBA. I was like, this is a freaking blue ocean, Michael. I'm not like, it's like when you're like, oh, okay, well, the FDA doesn't regulate breast milk. The state of Arizona doesn't regulate breast milk. So, of course, we've done everything within our power. And, we have all sorts of, we're CGMP compliant per guidelines set forth by the FDA, which is what milk banks are held to. But we're in a new industry. And so it's been a little bit of like that wild, wild west. And so there are companies, there are a couple companies you'll see on Instagram and you're like, that person looks like they're doing it in their kitchen. And there's no way that you can be having the sanitation, sterilization protocols required to be able to ensure, just safety around the product.
Yeah.
But you're right. And I think it goes back to the conversation we went earlier, right? Like, I think as an industry overall, postpartum has been something that's been forgotten, right? Or for a long time, oh yeah, women have been birthing babies to your brothers, like for decades, right? Your body knows what to do. Yeah, it does. But there's also a lot, like, and for the longest part, it's like, and you know this, you're in fitness, like, people don't like women and hormones and everything. Like, so many women postpartum suffer from all sorts of different hormonal disbalances. And what did our mom say? Oh, it's like, oh, you're gonna jump. Oh, I can't do that. I'll pee myself. Oh, that's what happens after you have kids. You know, I'm just old. And now it's like, no, I'm not. You know, I can't jump like that. No, I'm gonna go see a pelvic floor PT. Like, that's BS. Like, it doesn't mean I've had kids, so now I'm sort of broken and shit doesn't work the way it's supposed to be. And so I think there is this greater awakening that is happening that needs to continue to happen. I mean, let's go to maternity leave policies, right? Like, we are the only first world country that doesn't have mandatory maternity paid leave, right? And so then you start talking about, oh, what's the support in place at the workplace in terms of pumping or being able to support new parents. And so it's very much still a lacking area of our society. Like, our society was not built to support new parents, new moms, and especially breastfeeding moms in the workplace. Forget it. And I mean, and that's why you have this dropout, and there's lots of evidence around it, around like women leaving the workplace. Because I mean, Nicole's the perfect example. There's no respect for boundaries. There's no this, and that could be a very specific issue, right? But there's also nothing to support them during the transition back to work. So, I mean, why? I think it's been something that's been probably forgotten for a long time. And now we know. And then, of course, like I said, women, you're like, oh, here's where the business is going. You're like, there's a gap. Like, there was a gap that wasn't there. That's where you create a solution. And so I think that a lot of women-led founded companies are usually solutions to pain points that they lived and that they're trying to solve for, right?
Yeah, 100%. I love everything about that. What is outside of Craig, where's your support network as far as mentorship and strategic guidance is concerned?
This is a great question and a loaded one, right? I think that the first year that I did this, I not only had a 2-year-old, a newborn who had a heart issue. So we had a bunch of different things going on a medical perspective, starting a business, juggling the corporate grind. Like, there was little time for anything else beyond that. And I just remember coming up to the first year and just being like, oh my God, I am so lonely. I'm on an island. I don't have any sort of support. And so the second year I was like, this is my goal, to start building a network for myself, to feeling like I am not doing this alone. And if I could go back to Tirza starting Milk by Mom several years ago, that would be the first thing I probably would have told her, is like, make time to build community and to build your network and to find that support system for yourself. You know, and then now I'm still very much doing it. Obviously, we met at a networking event. You know, I try to do those several times a month. But in addition to that, I'm working with a business coach. And I just wrapped one up in August, and September started with a different one, right? Like, I think it's this constant evolution. I'd love to. I do feel like there is a mentor who is coming in my direction, who's going to say, I believe so strongly in this, it's going to want to be more involved in a mentorship type fashion. I don't have a mentor yet, but God, if anybody's listening, I'm definitely open and open to receive, right? You know, sort of thing. But that doesn't mean that I'm not seeking the support, whether through paid coaching or through networking events or different, masterminds, whatever it may be, to find that. And I think it's so important. I will also say, and you hear this time and time again, and being, an entrepreneur, and you do this, you're a coach, so you get this, right? But sometimes you just got to spend money to make money, right? Like you've got to get uncomfortable with spending what in other moments of your life you'd be like, that's a family vacation. You know what I mean? Like, like what? For how many sessions? Like, I think at the beginning it can be really daunting. I'm past that, right? I'm past that where I'm like, I'm fully in. And yes, there's, on the spectrum of good, great, and bad, they're all over the place. So definitely do your homework. Because no one is the same, and not one is necessarily right for everybody. But I will just say, I think right now I'm leaning into that very much for Milk by Mom, because we're in an upgrade season. I'm in a season of expansion and upgrade, and I feel it. Like my soul feels it, everything feels it, and it's like I also know that I have patterns and things that are no longer serving me that need to be upgraded to get to that level.
I mean, patterns, right? I had a client that was just recently working with a couple of weeks ago, and they were telling me about all this productivity, all these things that they accomplished, right? And I was like, They're like, you're not excited about like all like the mountains that I just moved? I was like, I mean, yes, I'm proud that you did all that. And also that productivity in you specifically is a coping mechanism so that you can avoid that little thing that we talked about doing in our last engagement. So yes, I want to support and celebrate and all of that shit. And also let's call it what it is. Let's acknowledge what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Because even though you accomplish all that, did you do the thing? I was like, right. Only you can do it. It has to be done by you. And sometimes, and I know I'm preaching to the choir right here, you just have to sit in that shit until it gets done. Stephen Pressfield wrote a book called The War of Art.
Yeah.
Right. And he talks about sitting with the muse, and the opposite of your muse when you're in that flow state and you're just doing the thing and you never run out of gas is resistance, right? It's that immovable object that stands between you and accomplishment that is like, I know I need to do it, but I'm not motivated. It's too fucking early. I'm too tired, blah, blah, blah. The kids, my husband, blah, 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 blah. That's all resistance. And at the same time, what is required cannot be perceived as inconvenient, right? And you just have to see there are moments, and let's just call it what it is. That's what they are. They're moments. They're not forever, where you need to sit in that discomfort, at your computer, like send the email, write the blog, make the fucking phone call, whatever, like get through. The only way to it is through it, and I am so grateful for mentors who were like, hey, dude, it is what it is, and it's all up to you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I asked the question, because I know that's one of those unspoken through lines that nobody tells you about, is those moments. Right. Everybody thinks what you're building is so fucking cool, and at the same time, like, tell me at this ring show, I was telling Nicole about this the other day. I just reskinned a whole year's worth of courses for the Alignment Village. Right. And I came in here to the studio and I sat and I sat and I scrolled and I fucked around and I sat some more and I lit some incense and I sat some more. And then finally I was like, oh, fuck. And I hammered it out. But that sitting is what was required to get to the point where the work could be done, as opposed to distracting like, oh, let me take that phone call. Let me go. Oh, you wanted me? Let's go. Like not being here. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I feel like, God, this rings so true. Like,
if you feel seen, raise your hand.
Like I think there is something around, yes, you are the only person that is in charge of your destiny, right? And so you are the only one that can make the change. But I also think that when it comes to coaching or doing any of these things, whatever it may be, and like I just had this, I'm working on a lot of different things around repattern work, right? And repatterning and everything. And it was like, I had, I'll spare you all the details, but yes, last week was one of the most challenging experiences that Craig and I have had to live through as parents. And, and then add all the other things, right? Like it was a really, really rough week. And still, right, in the probably moment of like, I literally had maybe 90 minutes of stillness to me all week. I chose to take a portion of that to dedicate to doing the work that I didn't want to do, that was repetitive and redundant and sticky, to be able to come prepared, to be able to move forward, right? And so it's like, I mean, that's your choice, right? And it is hard. And if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it, or you just wave a wand. But like, if you're not willing to put in the work and the grind, like, yes, transformation can happen. It doesn't happen overnight, and it takes you to be committed to be able to put in the work. So, I mean, I hear you, man. So,
well, it's a constant practice. Like that's my favorite word to describe what we're talking about. It's a practice. It's not perfection, and it's not right. Rarely is it right now. You know what I mean? Where you go to a workshop or you go to one of those networking events, and all of a sudden just poof, you get this insight, this download, and then bam, Tirza is like the old version of you doesn't exist. And I look at entrepreneurship, and it's one of those things where you see a principle in one sphere, and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere, and it becomes universal, right? And it's a lot like the fitness journey. You know what I mean? You don't transform your body overnight.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you didn't become who you are. You didn't get into that state of health or lack thereof yesterday, and it takes, we've used the word pattern a lot. It takes a higher level of awareness and a will to shift those patterns and to serve your higher, better self. And what's really interesting about that in this practice, one of the things that we coach is we really endorse like this recommitment moment to moment, right? For example, one of my old patterns was to just let shit go by the wayside and rely on my capacity to get things done, as opposed to delegating effectively. And I would have these conversations where things weren't happening or weren't being done to the level that I thought they should have been. And I would walk out pissed and just end up doing it myself. And the new version of me, the updated, upgraded version of me, would fall into that same pattern, right? Get up, walk out, be pissed, recommit in that moment, turn right back around, walk into the room and say, hey, I know what I just said, but this is what we're going to do. Right. And it's like that humility to unwind the old shit and install the new stuff. Like that sounds so simple and so dumb, you know.
But it requires repetition and practice and commitment.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so like awareness is only the first stage. It's only one part of the entire process. So yeah, I love it. I mean, I think that's why fitness is the perfect example, right? It just doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It doesn't even happen in a month. Like you got to do that very consistently.
So let's talk lifestyle integration, right? You left corporate, you start Milk by Mom. You know, how are you managing all the pieces of taking care of Tirza?
Yeah. I think that very early on, I had some very clear non-negotiables that were really important to the definition of like myself, a mom, because I started this business as a mom, right? And so, there's certain things like, for us, fitness, like I need to have that outlet, and the only time I can go is like 5:30 in the morning. Let's go. Like I love it. I need to get that done.
Sunrise crew, baby. I love it.
It makes me feel good, but it also just like wakes up the endorphins. Like it just sets you up for success for the next day. Family dinners, right? Like that is like a non-negotiable for me. I come home, we have dinner as a family. We say what we're grateful for. We talk to the girls. Like that has been since day one and is going to continue throughout. Like that is quality time. That's a non-negotiable, as much as possible being there for bedtime, right? And if I have to grind after, then like, let's go, let's grind after. But there's already so much that you miss just grinding during the day and all the different things, that those were really big non-negotiables. I had to let go of perfect, right?
Ooh, tell me more about that.
Like, done is better than perfect. And I also had to let go of the expectation that everything just needed to be perfect. The house needs to be, or, our life, whatever it may be. And just understanding that showing up, it was sometimes and often enough. Craig has been really good at teaching me this, because that doesn't naturally come. I have a little bit of OCD tendencies. I like the house to be immaculate. And for anybody that has 1 or 2 kids under the age of 5, like, how hard that can be.
Or
right?
9
and
and 7,
the amount of
whatever.
shit that is right? I was like, we need a bigger house. And it's just get rid of. I'm like, no, that's not the answer. The answer is cleaning out. Well, guess what? Cleaning out requires time. So right now it's just piling up, and at some point it's like, but yeah, letting go of the need and for everything to be perfect all the time, or what I perceived as perfect, and understanding that those are the things that really, like, they were not serving me, and they weren't serving anybody in my family.
Yeah.
Right?
Was perfection something, because this is like the pattern work that we do, right? A lot of the things that we've installed that are now in the way were things that we were actually celebrated for at one point, right? Or that we attached to positive outcomes, right? If perfection, quote unquote, was one of those things for you, what was the awakening that you had that it no longer served you?
I think that it comes down to when I started noticing how I couldn't be present in the moments where I needed to be present, because I was so hung up on the other things that needed to be done, or that it wouldn't allow me to sit down and like actually enjoy the moment, or be present, or just be grateful. I think gratitude is so big, and yeah, I feel like taking that backpack off has been really big. And don't get me wrong here, Michael. I'm far from perfect in that, like, there's still a lot of work that needs to happen there. And there are times where I'm like, okay, everything's cool. And then all of a sudden, like, it's like a kettle, pot up. Right? On the kettle, and I'm like, oh my God. And there's this moment where like the fumes happen and it's like, okay, fine, let's see what we can do. But I've learned to say, you know what, it's my expectations around what I perceived as needing to be perfect are no longer that. And how about like done is better than perfect? So why don't we start with this little corner, right? And we're gonna do that. And that's really all I had time for to really do. And so we check a little bits like that, where you still feel good.
Yeah.
And still refilling my cup and making me feel filling my cup, but also allowing me to like be grateful and present in the moment instead of caught up with all the mental overload and overwhelm there. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Geez. I think that's a great place to cap it. For everybody who this is their first exposure to Tirza and Milk by Mom, where do they go find you, support you, get what they need from you? Where can they find you?
Oh my gosh. So find us at Milk by Mom on all the social media channels. And gosh, tell a friend, right? Tell a friend if you have anybody that's pregnant or expecting or just had a baby. We do gift cards. That's amazing. If you work at a company, they're like, this should be absolutely part of the benefits for our working parents. Like, go tell your HR manager, help spread the word, because I think that there is a movement behind this.
Yes.
So that's my ask today for anybody that's listening, and follow us along, Milk by Mom on all social. And if you have questions or comments or anything, I'd love to hear from anybody. It'd be an honor to be able to support anyone and just help educate more people.
I love it. I love it. Tirza, thank you so much for your time and energy and your space. For everybody out there listening, remember, whether it's your fitness or your leadership journey, it all comes down to integrity, courage, and ownership. And we're here to support that. Head over to nextlevelvillage.com to join the tribe, come into the program, and start making those things happen. And until next time, progress always.